A few volts of electricity run through wet sand for a couple of minutes, and the sand stops being sand. It doesn't crumble when you pick it up. It doesn't wash away in the next wave. It holds together like a rock, because at that point, chemically, that's exactly what it is. No cement truck, no kiln-burning limestone at over 1,400 degrees, just 2 electrodes, some seawater, and a battery weaker than the one in your car. A team at Northwestern University ran this exact experiment, published it in a peer-reviewed Nature Portfolio journal, and got funding from the U.S. Army Research Office to do it. And if you've never heard of it, that's not because it failed. It's because an entire industry built around burning rock at extreme heat has no incentive to advertise a process that could replace it for pennies on the dollar. Here's the problem that most people never think about until a storm takes their beach away. Coastlines everywhere are eroding, and more than a third of the world's sandy beaches could shrink dramatically within this century as sea levels keep climbing. The standard response is to pour concrete. Seawalls, revetments, injected chemical binders, all of it expensive, all of it temporary. Because concrete itself erodes and cracks under the same forces it's meant to resist, and it leaches chemicals into the water while it does it. Coastal protection right now is basically a subscription service. You pay for a structure, watch it degrade, and pay again to replace it. Meanwhile, the cement that goes into all of it is manufacturing a separate crisis of its own. Making a single ton of ordinary cement releases roughly 900 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Not because the process is inefficient, but because that emission is baked into the chemistry. You cannot decompose limestone at high heat without releasing carbon. There is no clean version of that reaction. Cement production alone is responsible for something in the neighborhood of 7 to 8% of all human-caused CO2 emissions on the planet, which puts it in the same conversation as the entire global steel industry. So here's the shift. What if the ocean already contained everything you needed to build with, and the only missing ingredient was a nudge of energy to make it happen? That's not a hypothetical. It's biology, and it's been running for millions of years in the form of coral reefs, oyster shells, and limestone cliffs, all of which are built from dissolved minerals and seawater, assembled by living organisms using nothing but chemistry and time. The Northwestern team essentially asked what happens if you remove the organism and replace it with a wire. That question actually has a much older answer than 2024. In the 1970s, a German-born architect named Wolf Hilberts, working out of the University of Texas at Austin, became fixated on coral, not as a biologist, but as a builder. He noticed that reef structures were harder and more durable than most commercial concrete, self-repairing, and grown for free from ambient seawater. In 1976, he ran a simple experiment: submerge 2 metal electrodes in seawater, connect them to a low-voltage current, and watch what accumulates on the cathode. What accumulated was limestone, calcium carbonate, and magnesium hydroxide, pulled directly out of solution and deposited layer by layer onto the metal frame, thickening at a rate of several centimeters a year for as long as the current kept flowing. He filed for a patent in 1979, and it was granted in 1981, describing structures with compressive strength in the same range as the concrete used for sidewalks and low-rise foundations. Hilbert spent the rest of his life building on that discovery, installing accretion structures and artificial reefs in dozens of countries before he died in 2007. His work was eventually recognized inside the Museum of Modern Art in New York as part of an exhibition on architects who anticipated the environmental crisis decades early. And still, the construction industry kept pouring cement, because a niche architectural discovery with no major manufacturer behind it doesn't get a marketing budget, it gets a footnote. The actual mechanism is elegantly simple once you see it. Seawater isn't just water, it's an electrolyte solution loaded with dissolved calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate ions. The same raw materials every shellfish on Earth uses to grow its shell. Those minerals want to solidify, but they need a shift in the local chemistry to do it. Running a mild current between 2 electrodes raises the pH right at the cathode. At that elevated pH, calcium carbonate can no longer stay dissolved. It precipitates out and starts forming crystal bridges between individual sand grains, locking the loose granular structure into a solid, interconnected mass. At 2 to 3 volts, the dominant mineral is calcium carbonate, basically the same material as a coral reef. Push it up toward 4 volts, and the reaction favors magnesium hydroxide and a rarer mineral called hydromagnesite, which the Northwestern team was the first to document forming this way. And in a detail that sounds almost too convenient to be real, the whole process is reversible. Flip which electrode is positive and which is negative, and the local chemistry reverses too, dissolving the minerals back into the water. The stone turns back into sand. That's not just a neat trick. It means you could theoretically build, modify, or remove a structure without demolition equipment or the mountain of construction waste that comes with it. Why isn't this already replacing seawalls up and down every coastline on Earth? Mostly because global infrastructure moves on inertia, not on peer-reviewed journals. The cement and concrete industry represents well over $1 trillion in annual economic activity worldwide, built on supply chains, machinery, labor contracts, and building codes that assume Portland cement as the default. Retooling that system doesn't happen because one university publishes a paper, even a genuinely groundbreaking one. It happens slowly through pilot projects, updated codes, and enough field data that engineers are willing to stake their license on something new. The Northwestern researchers themselves have said their next step is testing this outside the lab, on an actual beach. The science is settled. The plumbing of the construction industry is not. That said, this isn't the only research thread chasing the same idea from a different angle. A separate field called biocementation has spent years working with bacteria that, when introduced into sand along with a urea and calcium solution, trigger a chemical reaction that precipitates calcium carbonate at the exact contact points between grains, cementing them together without a single volt of electricity involved. It's a slower biological cousin of the same core idea. Nature already knows how to turn loose grains into solid stone, and humans are just now figuring out how to trigger that chemistry on a construction timeline instead of a geological one. For homeowners and builders paying attention to where this is headed, the practical takeaway isn't that you'll be running electrodes through your backyard next year. It's that permanent, expensive, carbon-heavy solutions to erosion and ground stabilization are no longer the only option in the pipeline. Coastal municipalities dealing with erosion, marine construction firms, and anyone maintaining shoreline property have a genuinely lower cost, lower carbon alternative on the horizon, backed by a functioning U.S. patent history stretching back over 4 decades, and now confirmed under rigorous modern peer review. If you wanted to understand the actual process at a conceptual level, submerge conductive electrodes in seawater or a seawater-soaked granular material, apply a low, steady DC voltage in the 2 to 4 volt range, and give it time. The lower end of that range favors calcium carbonate, the higher end favors magnesium-based minerals. Longer exposure produces denser, stronger material. It is not something to attempt as a shortcut for structural work you depend on. This is early stage, lab and pilot scale science, not an approved substitute for engineered concrete and anything load-bearing or safety critical, and the voltages involved, while mild, still require basic electrical caution around water. What this research really challenges isn't cement as a material. It's an assumption we've carried since the 1820s, that solid ground and durable structure require burning something at extreme temperature. That assumption just quietly stopped being true, sitting in an open access paper that any curious person can read for themselves. The ocean has been building stone from nothing but dissolved minerals and a trickle of energy since long before anyone poured the first bag of Portland cement. And it turns out we only needed to pay attention to how it does it.